Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 11 2017 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic this week, it was another solid week of predictions. Against the spread and straight up, I had winning weeks, going 9-5 against the spread and 10-4 straight up. And now overall for the year, I am 74-67 with 4 ties against the spread, and straight up I am now 96-50. To those percentages, they equal up to about 52.5% against the spread and about 66% straight up. So overall, I'm having a really successful year with my picks, one of the better years I've had in a long time, and I just hope with how the games are going and how the teams are going, I just hope I can continue to improve that streak and keep reaching new highs. It's like stocks. Just keep hoping my market and my shares keep going up to better and greater heights. But what a crazy week in the NFL. The Saints looked absolutely dominant against the Bills. They ran for 6 touchdowns on them. They had I think either the largest or second largest road win in their franchise history. And the Saints look like a legitimate Super Bowl team. They do. And I think the entire NFL should take notice. They are a balanced team. Their defense is playing, I would say, they have the best defensive unit in the Sean Payton era that he's ever had. I'm including the 2009 defense that won the Super Bowl, because even though the Saints defense that year was number 2 in the league in turnovers, or number 1 or 2 in the league turnovers, they were not nearly as good in every other aspect of the game like they are with this defense. But you had that, and actually that game caused Tyrod Taylor to get benched today, and the Buffalo Bills are going to go with rookie quarterback, 5th-round pick Nathan Peterman out of the University of Pittsburgh. If you want the Fanatic's opinion on this, I don't really agree with this decision, because yes, Tyrod Taylor did not play a very good game at all against Buffalo. However, he wasn't the reason why the Saints ran for almost 300 yards, and he isn't the reason why the defense gave up 47 points. And if you want to say, well, he didn't play well against the Jets either, yes, he didn't put up a great game, but again, he got sacked 7 times and caused 3 fumbles. So you can blame the fumbles partially on him, but it wasn't like he was able to run the ball or have enough protection to win the game. So I think the Bills made a very reactionary and harsh decision that should not have been made. And I think the Buffalo Bills season will potentially start nosediving from this point on going forward. Because Tyrod Taylor, even if they give him the job back, I guarantee you he's not going to feel as motivated to play. And he's just going to, go out there with the motions. And he's going to want to move on from the Bills next year to find another team to give him a fairer, more reasonable opportunity. But you had that going on. The Vikings with a big win over the Redskins. They put up 38 points. Case Keenum is now starting this week for the Rams. I thought this was the wise move, because at the end of the day, Case Keenum's played 7 games, and he's played pretty well at 5-2. He has about 11 TDs, 5 interceptions, completing about 65% of his passes. He's playing pretty well. And I think Case Keenum has earned the right to keep this job till the end of the year, or until he goes on a stretch where he loses. He goes 1-2 or 1-3 with bad games and poor performances. But we'll see about that. I thought that was interesting. You have the Titans and Jags winning close nail-biters to keep that division race basically in a dead heat in terms of the division and in terms of where I think those teams are, because you can kind of differentiate the positives and negatives of both teams. Where the Jags have phenomenal defense and a very good running game that got stifled by the Charger defense, but they're hampered by Blake Bortles. Where the white toast analogy I love saying about the Titans continues to be a fact of they can run the ball effectively. They have a pretty good run defense, and they've allowed the fewest big plays of 20-plus yards in the NFL. But when you just watch them, they're bland. There's nothing really exciting about the Titans, but they have a more competent quarterback, and they played more consistently than the Jags have all year with this odd and even weakness. So you see that, and I'll probably talk about some other things as I go through my video. But I want to say, time for my picks. But before I do my picks, I want to tell everybody the buys for this week. The Carolina Panthers, the Indianapolis Colts, the New York Jets, and the San Francisco 49ers all have buys this week. So if you have any players on those fantasy teams, probably the big ones are like Cam Newton, McCaffrey, the Panthers defense, the Jets defense, Robbie Anderson, T.Y. Hilton, and nobody on the Niners. Though, congrats to the Niners for their first win. If you have any of those players on your teams, bench them because they will not be playing this week. Alright, so time for my picks and thoughts on each game. So, on Thursday, when the 6-3 Tennessee Titans go to the 7-2 Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 7-point favorites in this game. I like the Titans here +7, but I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers straight up. The next game, when the 5-4 Detroit Lions go to the 3-6 Chicago Bears, the Detroit Lions are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Detroit here -3, and Detroit straight up. And then the next game, when the 4-5 Baltimore Ravens go to the 5-4 Green Bay Packers, the Green Bay Packers are 2-point underdogs in this game. I like the Green Bay Packers here +2, and the Green Bay Packers straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-3 Jacksonville Jaguars go to the 0-9 Cleveland Browns, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 7.5-point favorites in this game. I like Jacksonville here -7.5, and Jacksonville straight up. And then the next game, when the 4-5 Arizona Cardinals go to the 3-6 Houston Texans, the Arizona Cardinals are 1-point favorites in this game. I like Arizona here -1, and Arizona straight up. And then the next game, in one of my favorite games of the week, when the 7-2 Los Angeles Rams go to the 7-2 Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Rams here to pull off the upset, so I'm going to tell you to take the LA Rams +2.5 and the LA Rams straight up. And then the next game, the makeup game from Hurricane Irma, when the 3-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the 4-5 Miami Dolphins. This is a pick'em game, so I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here in a pick'em against the spread and straight up. And then the next game, when the 4-5 Washington Redskins go to the 7-2 New Orleans Saints, the New Orleans Saints are 7.5-point favorites in this game. I like the New Orleans Saints here -7.5, and New Orleans straight up. And then the next game, when the 6-3 Kansas City Chiefs go to the 1-8 New York Giants, the Chiefs are 10.5-point favorites in this game. I like Kansas City here -10.5, and Kansas City straight up. And then the next game, when the 5-4 Buffalo Bills go to the 3-6 Los Angeles Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers are 4.5-point favorites in this game. I like the Los Angeles Chargers -4.5, and the Los Angeles Chargers straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-6 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 3-6 Denver Broncos, the Cincinnati Bengals are 2.5-point underdogs in this game. I like Cincinnati here +2.5, and the Cincinnati Bengals straight up. And then the next game, when the 7-2 New England Patriots go to the 4-5 Oakland Raiders, the New England Patriots are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like New England here -6.5, and New England straight up. And by the way, they are not in Oakland this week. They are in Mexico City, Mexico, playing for the second straight year in the international game south across the border. So there's that. And then in the Sunday night game, when the 8-1 Philadelphia Eagles go to the 5-4 Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Philadelphia here -3, and Philadelphia straight up. And then in the Monday night game, when the 5-4 Atlanta Falcons go to the 6-3 Seattle Seahawks, the Seattle Seahawks are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Seattle here -3, and Seattle straight up. Alright, so time for my thoughts on each game. The Steelers over the Titans. I look at this game as one of those prove-it games for the Tennessee Titans. Like, again, I've called them for the last couple of weeks, jokingly, the white buttered toast of the NFL. In the sense of where you look at the Titans, they've won 4 straight games, the longest streak, I believe, since 2009 that they've gone on. But when you watch them, they don't do anything great. Like, when you watch Titans games, shout out to Keith Bailey, a great prog in one of the NFL YouTube prognosticators. Like, they are a bland football team that doesn't excite you. Mariota's playing average to a little above average. The running game has been up and down, even though DeMarco Murray had a phenomenal game on Sunday with 3 total touchdowns and the 1 touchdown that won the game. But the defense isn't that great, except, the pass defense is awful. They're 22nd in points. And I just think for the Titans, like, this is their prove-it game. Because, yes, they've won 4 straight games, but they beat the Colts, they beat the Bengals, they beat... trying to think of the other teams that they beat. but they really haven't played anybody great over the last 4 weeks that you can say, wow, great job for you. Like, no, the Titans are just kind of there. So I feel like for the Titans, this is their game to show the NFL, hey, we are a legitimate contender in the AFC, and we can surprise people. Where you look at the Steelers, they're just kind of just up and down. And maybe, if they lose to the Titans, we really might, for a lot of people, could say, man, we've been overrating the Steelers, because 7-2 teams do not struggle like the way they did against Indianapolis, like the way they've struggled against Chicago, like the way they've struggled against the Detroit Lions, where they're just kind of playing up to their competition and making games way too much closer with the offensive talent they have in Schuster, Bryant, Brown, and Bell with Ben, a very good offensive line, and one of the best defenses in the NFL. They should be dominating more, but they're not. But I'm just going to trust the Steelers, especially at home. They've shown that they play much better in front of their home crowd compared to on the road. Like, they actually have a subpar 500 record against teams below 500 on the road. It makes no sense, but that's the truth. But I'm going to take the Steelers here just because I'm going to trust that defense. This is going to be one of the better defenses Mariota's played in a long time, and I just don't think he's going to be able to make that many plays. It will be interesting to see how that defense plays without Joe Hayden, who is going to be out indefinitely with a fractured fibula. But I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers here. I trust this defense at home. On short weeks like this, you tend to, with the better team, you usually go with the more talented team and their home. And I think the Titans are going to put up a fight. They could run the ball. They could get a couple of big pass plays, which would be very surprising. Look, Dante Moncrief and Chester Rogers both had 60-plus yard touchdowns against the Steelers secondary. But at the end of the day, I just think the Steelers have higher talent, and I don't think Mariota in this kind of spotlight will do well enough to lead this team to a victory, and they're going to shut down the running game well enough to say to Mariota, throw this team to victory, and I don't think he'll be able to make enough throws with his arm and just accurately enough to win this game. This is a great game because I think this is a good, confidence builder for Pittsburgh if they win, and a great test for the Titans to really see if they are a legitimate playoff team that could, in the playoffs, compete with these teams at least and possibly beat them. So that's why I like the Tennessee Titans +7, but I'll take the Pittsburgh Steelers straight up. The next game, the Lions over the Bears. This is one of those games where it's a division game, so you can really throw away the records. But after what happened on Sunday with the Packers, I lost a bit of confidence in the Bears because with Mitchell Trubisky, who has a much brighter future compared to Brent Hundley, for him to make those couple big mistakes and for him not to be able to convert the ball, also I guess kudos to the Packers run defense for stopping Jordan Howard to a pretty good amount. I just was really disappointed in John Fox. I thought that was a black eye on John Fox, and I know he's a rookie, but I thought that was a black eye on Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky has had more opportunities with starters. He's been the starter now for 5 or 6 weeks. Hundley's been there, 3 weeks? And he hadn't played that well enough to really say that, Trubisky couldn't outplay him or play up to his level. And again, they only put up 16 points. I thought that they could put up at least 20, 24 on this Packer defense, which at times this year has been very bad. So, with that being said, when you look at the Lions, they have the easiest strength of schedule remaining for a playoff-type team. I do not think they will win the NFC North, but with their schedule, they're going to go. They're going to go on a, I would say, what's a good example? A Wisconsin Badger for anybody who plays college football. A Wisconsin Badger type run where they can make the playoffs if they just beat the opponents on their schedule. They may not have any impressive wins because they lost to Pittsburgh. They lost to New Orleans. They lost to Carolina. And they're just going to beat a bunch of soft teams. But, hey, if you can do that and get in, that should be enough, to tell people, hey, they got in by hook or crook. And I think the Bears is another one of those kind of opponents. I think this is going to be a really good, really interesting test because the Bears defense has played very well all year long. But I'm going to take the Lions here because I trust this Lions team to be able to go into Chicago and play a well enough game with Stafford at quarterback and he'll be able to move the ball on this Bears secondary enough to win this game. And I just don't think with the Lions defense, they're an underrated defense. And though they gave up 24 points to the Browns, they were put in some short field, and then by the second half, they pretty much clamped them down to end the game. I think on a they scored like 17-7 run. So this Lions defense can hold their own against this Trubisky-led offense to win another good decisive game to get to 6-4 and provide them a huge opportunity with the Vikings on Thanksgiving next Thursday to take control of the NFC North. So that's why I like Detroit here -3 and Detroit straight up. Next game, the Packers over the Ravens. This is a really interesting game to me as a Raven fan and a Packer fan. Like, these two teams in their respective divisions are both fighting for playoff spots. Even without Aaron Rodgers, Brent Hundley played the best game of his career, and he got his first win, so congratulations. And, again, you look at the running game, but both non-existent. The Packers have the better edge of receiving core, but I feel like the Ravens have a better edge at the defensive side because both offensive lines are banged up. You look at the Ravens, and it's just kind of like the Ravens over the last few years, where they play really weird football in the sense of they don't look good through 75% of the game, but then by the end of the game, you're going to look at one or two plays of the game and go, we could have stopped that, or we would have kicked it here, or we would have ran it here, or would have thrown that touchdown, we would have won the game. And that's what I feel like, again, we're going to go into with Green Bay. It's very hard to win in Lambeau Field. I don't think Flacco's ever won there before. I know he doesn't play them often. But this is just one of those things where the key difference for me is coaching and offensive coaching. I will take Mike McCarthy and the Green Bay Packers offensive coaching staff to be able to make plays with Ty Montgomery, even above the running backs, were hurt pretty bad. Aaron Jones is out for at least a month with an MCL sprain, and Ty Montgomery has another rib injury. So I don't know who's going to be running the football for Green Bay. But I feel like with the Packers, with the talent they have, and how Brent Hundley, has played a bit better and has a better competent offensive mind behind him, I just think the Packers will find a way to win this football game. Would I be surprised if the Baltimore Ravens won this game? No. Because we have the much better defense, and if we can get a couple turnovers, a couple sacks, and short fields, we can win this game the Raven way this year, which is basically getting up to about a 10, 13-point lead and just running the ball down their throats to kill clock. So I think we could get a 10-point lead on this Packer defense and win. But if we're just going to go offensive coaching with all the other factors considered, I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers offensive coaching staff over the Ravens offensive coaching staff because at least Mike McCarthy has been able to work with quarterbacks like Favre and Rodgers and create an offensive system that's competent and effective with the right quarterback, where with Flacco and Morningwig, it's just weird chemistry, it's awkward throws, Flacco's lost it, and I think Hundley now is kind of like this young gun who's just still trying to find his way. I think Hundley will make more plays with his arm and his feet compared to Flacco, who's kind of becoming an Eli, a Palmer, just an old quarterback that's lost his gun and is just trying to fight, for everything left in his past his prime. So Raven fan, don't get angry at me. Look, I would like us to win. I think we have a good chance to win. But if we're going with this game, with everything being considered, go with the better offensive mind and take the Packers to win. That's why I like Green Bay here +2 and the Green Bay Packers straight up. The next game, the Jaguars over the Browns. This is easy for a couple of reasons. A, the Browns are the worst team in the NFL with the Niners winning their football game. And the fact that they, and again, I will give Hugh Jackson and that Browns team credit. They actually threw 60 to 65% of this game, were competitive, and they had the lead for about a couple minutes. And they played well, but at the end of the game, they lost by 14. To have a 24-24 tie in about the middle of the third quarter to losing by 14 to cover the 12.5 spread, that is the problem with the Browns. And here is the thing. I think if Detroit's defense could give up 24 points, even with all the miscues the Lions had, the Jaguars will definitely shrink that down. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think you could honestly sit A.J. Boye or Ramsey, one of them, out for this game. If they wanted some rest, you could have Boye on their one receiver and then their third corner, and they both probably could shut them down. The Browns' offensive line without Thomas and them isn't really that good. And I think Kaiser's going to have a horrible day in that backfield going up against that Jaguars front seven. They'll be able to run the ball pretty effectively. And I think the Jags, with the Kaiser leading the league in interceptions, he should be able to get a couple, defensive turnovers to get them in short field to score touchdowns, or the Jaguars will just take the ball themselves and score TDs that way as well. So, to me, this is just a clear mismatch. And also, again, this is an odd week. And you can just keep going with this trend. Every odd week this year, the Jaguars have played a basically flawless game of football with dominating defense, decent passing games, and, and bruising running games. Every even week, they seem to get stumped, turn back into the old Jags, Bortles makes a big mistake, and goof up. And that's what the Jaguars did last week against the Chargers in the first place. Bortles threw 2 interceptions within 25 seconds. But, thankfully, Phillip Rivers, did Los Angeles Chargers or chokers types things, where he threw a horrible pass to Boye, and Boye returns, to about the 2-yard line. The kick gets blocked, and it still goes through. So, if they can get that luck against the Chargers, look, the Jags may only need 6 points, and they'll beat the Browns, because that defense can clamp down on that very weak Browns passing offense, and offense in general. But when I look at this game, I'm just going to trust the Jags. They have a much more complete team. They have the better quarterback. They have the better receivers. And they just have a better mindset of how to play their style of football. To just absolutely shut down teams. And I think Bortles will not make as many mistakes. I think the Jags just get another, cupcake win to get the 7-3 and, continue their push to getting their first non-losing record in 2011 and their first playoff appearance since 2007. So that's all like Jacksonville minus 7.5 and Jacksonville straight up. Next game, the Cardinals over the Texans. This is really bad. This is one of those, I call them crap. This is probably my crappy toss-up game of the week, as I like to call it. This game, I would not be surprised if the Texans won. But I'm going to take the Cardinals here because they have Adrian Peterson. And they have Drew Stanton. And even if Drew Stanton can't play, they have Blaine Gabbert. The Cardinals have more talent. The Cardinals have a quarterback that at least has won a couple games in the NFL and has shown more as a pure quarterback than Tom Savage has. And that's why I'm going to take the Cardinals. I just, that's it. I can't trust Tom Savage. Tom Savage has been absolutely awful. They should let Josh Johnson or TJ Yates try to, throw the football because Tom Savage isn't getting you anywhere. And the fact that Bill O'Brien has not seen that yet is showing his stubbornness and how much Deshaun Watson really means to this team. He had an Aaron Rodgers type effect on the Texans that as soon as he went down, that offense died and their season died. Which is amazing for a rookie to be that talented and that impactful on a team that basically your season's dead without him playing. So Houston, you better give him a lot of good protection, a lot of good money, because he's going to earn it with how bad you guys have been playing this year so far. But yeah, I'm going to take the Cardinals here. This is one of those games where the Cardinals just have the more competent quarterback, have the better running game, have the better offensive line, and just a better sense of confidence. And they played more competitive games than the Texans have with Tom Savage. Every game that Tom Savage has been in, over the last couple of years, he's either lost or they've gotten blown out this year with him starting. So that's all I like Arizona here, -1, and Arizona straight up. Next game, the Rams over the Vikings. I'm going to take the LA Rams here, +2.5. The main reason is I'm going to trust Jared Goff and this offense. Jared Goff and this offense is number 1 in the NFL. They're averaging a little bit under 32 points a game. And I think that he will show how improved he is by playing a well enough game against a top 5 Vikings defense in order to win this game. And this is interesting because in this game, the Vikings quarterback was the starting quarterback for the Rams last year. So in some ways, this is kind of a great motivation game for Case Keenum to see really, how they're going to do. But I'm going to take the Rams here because I've trusted the Rams offense all year. And the Rams defense is not a slouch defense. They've held, in the last 4 4 games, I believe. They've held the Cardinals to 0. They allowed the Giants to only put up 17. And they only allowed the Texans to put up 7. And then the Seahawks only put up 16. So this Rams defense is absolutely phenomenal. And I just think with the offensive talent they have in the quarterback, this is the game where Case Keenum finally shows that, hey, I'm Case Keenum. I will put up a good fight, and my defense will put up a good fight. But I can't make enough throws on this Rams defense in order for the Rams to win this game. But the other way around, I feel like Jared Goff, with the way he's been playing and how consistent he's been, he will be able to make enough plays with his feet and with his arm to win this game for the Vikings in a very close, low-scoring game, especially for the Rams. A low-scoring game. So that's why I like the LA Rams here plus 2.5, and the LA Rams straight up. Next game, the Bucs over the Dolphins. The Bucs won a game. The Bucs won with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they looked more competent. The defense looked great, and I just can't trust the Miami Dolphins right now. The Miami Dolphins, ever since beating Atlanta, they've looked, ever since beating the Jets, 2 of the last 3 games, they lost 45-21 and 40-0. And then they got thoroughly beaten on the defense by the Raiders. And I just don't have any confidence in the Dolphins right now, and they may get blown out again. Because they have one of the worst offenses, one of the worst overall defenses, and the Monday night game, that was a lot more effort than talent. Like, Cam Newton should have ran for a 69-yard run. Cam Newton shouldn't have been able to only perform for the second time in NFL history a 400-yard passing game plus a 90-plus yard rushing game. And with that, that's what I'm going to that's why I like the Bucs. The Bucs show me something with Ryan Fitzpatrick that if the Dolphins play like they have over the last few weeks and more over the season, the Bucs with Fitzpatrick can do enough to beat Jay Cutler with the Dolphins. And also the Bucs just have more talent, and I feel like Fitzpatrick, will not screw it up again and be able to pull out another win. Which is really weird for Fitzpatrick. I don't get it. But that's all I like Tampa Bay here against the spread and the pick'em, and Tampa Bay straight up. Next game, the Saints over the Redskins. I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints here because nothing is stopping the Saints right now from achieving any goal that they want. They've been able to run the ball incredibly well. Drew Brees is still Drew Brees, putting up good yards, making good plays. He even ran in for a touchdown. And this Saints defense is one of the best in the league. They're a borderline top 5 defense, I think, in yards. They're a top 5 defense in points over the last 7 weeks, and they're the second team in NFL history to have a 7-plus game winning streak after starting out 0-2. But I'm going to take the Saints here just because I just think with the Redskins, it's kind of the same principle with the Vikings. But unfortunately, though, here's the bad part. The Saints have a much better running game, they have a better offensive line, and a more competent quarterback. The Redskins can put up a fight, and Breeze, could make a mistake, or the Redskins could, try to, play over their head like they did against Seattle. They pulled off another big road upset just a couple weeks ago by beating Seattle. But I'm going to take the Saints here just because I just think that the Redskins, at the end of the day, they're a good enough team to compete, but in a game like this with a hot Saints team that knows how to beat you in multiple different ways and has been having a bone-crushing and stifling defense that's been consistent every week, I think the Redskins are just another victim for that team to go on to 8-2 and move on to their huge game against the LA Rams next week in the Coliseum. That's going to be one of the games of the week that I'm most excited to see, and I think that could be a potential NFC Championship game, or one of those two teams, if the Rams win, are going to be in the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's all I like New Orleans here, minus 7.5, and New Orleans straight up. Next game, Chiefs over Giants. The Giants lost to the Niners. Ben McAdoo needed to be fired on Monday. And here's somebody that, again, earlier this year, I defended Ben McAdoo. But when you have a coach that can't inspire anybody, a team that is basically quit on his coach and that staff, they get a decisive loss against the Niners. They give C.J. Beathard probably his only win in the NFL. You have to go. And when Ben McAdoo says to people, oh, well, the players get paid, they need to be self-motivated. Yes, they have incentive to play. But you know what? You have an incentive to be a better coach, to be a better leader, to be a better human being. Like, Ben McAdoo seems like a real jerk that did not deserve to get hired. I'm pretty sure Tom Coughlin is laughing his rear end off the fact of how he's been able to build a Jaguar team that is a respectable team in the NFL and one of the best defensive teams in the NFL. While with the Giants, of all that money paid into the Giants defense, and Spags and that defense is getting absolutely nothing out of him. He suspended 2 corners for only 1 game. He's not even really showing that he, is firm on his stances. It's like, well, you get suspended for 1 game and then come back. Like, there is not a U-Haul, any moving device that you want that could get Ben McAdoo out of there faster. And I think the Giants are dumb not doing that now. Because at least with, a new coach or Spagnuolo's a guy that at least, got a head coaching job on his own merit from the Giants. And if you let him coach the last 6 games, you might get a win or 2, and you may see an improvement that's good enough to get the Giants just at the end of this year. But I'm going to take the Chiefs here. I know they've been struggling very hard, and 3 of the last 4 games, they could not run the ball over 100 yards, and they are 1 in all 3 of those games. They lost that football game. Okay, I'm sorry. And they were 1-3 because of that, and they got lucky by playing Denver, a turnover-prone offense. But I'm going to take the Chiefs here because this Chiefs team, no matter what their struggles have been recently, their struggles are nowhere near as bad as the Giants. The Chiefs are still a playoff team. They will win the AFC West, and they are still a slight dark horse type Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. And I just think going up to New York against a Giant team that's not great in a lot of things, they'll be able to find a way to win this game, and I don't think Eli Manning will be able to pass the ball effectively. And it'll be kind of like a lighter version. It'll be Rams light, where I think the Chiefs offense, they'll put up about 30 to 34 points. I think the Giants will, probably give up, The Giants will score, I'll go 10. I'll say 34 to 10 is around that score. They get a decisive win, and the Giants just continue their misery, where they just want to cry. They want to be the Cryants and cry themselves out of this misery to go on to next year, where they can. There is no room but improvement for that Giant team. So that's all. Like KC here minus 10.5, and KC straight up. Next game, the Chargers over the Bills. Nathan Peterman's the starting quarterback. That's all I needed to know. I'm taking the Los Angeles Chargers. If Kellen Clemens plays or not, I think for Nathan Peterman, he's going to be under a lot of pressure by Bosa and Ingram, and that defense has given up a lot of pressure and sacks over the last couple games. And I just think for Peterman, this is just a bad way to start out. And then the best part is I believe they go to Kansas City next week. So, fun, Nate. Good job. So, good luck with that, Sean. Mentioned Tyrod Taylor, who's been a, decent quarterback. One of only 3 quarterbacks this year with 10-plus TDs and 3 or fewer interceptions. The other 2 were Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. But yeah, I'm going to take the Chargers here just because I feel like the Chargers have been a more complete team. I think Kellen Clemens has been in the league long enough to, be effective. And I just think with Melvin Gordon, he should be able to put up a decent-sized dent into the Bills' defense to give this Charger team the victory they need. And I think the Chargers have more dynamic playmakers, unlike the Bills. And even though they're going against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, that worst run defense only gave up about 21 yards to Leonard Fournette. So if they can hold Leonard Fournette to 21 yards, they can definitely hold LaShawn McCoy to about 40 to 60 yards. With Nate Peterman, passing their quarterback, that's nowhere near going to be enough for the Chargers or for the Bills to win this game. So that's why I like the LA Chargers here minus 4.5, and the LA Chargers straight up. Next game, the Bengals over Denver. This was a quarterback aspect to me, and I'm going to take Andy Dalton over Brock Osweiler. I feel like the Broncos at this point, they've given up hope. They really can't move the ball that well. Osweiler didn't play bad, but their special teams are horrible. They've lost 5 straight games. They've lost 6 of their last 7. And I just look at the Bengals and say this. The Bengals aren't doing that much better either, but I've seen the Bengals compete in a lot more games and put up more consistent fights compared to the Broncos. So where I might regret this because the Broncos defense is still very good, and the Bengals are, could be the Bungles and let Brock Osweiler get a win. Because I remember a couple years ago when Osweiler was starting for Peyton in that Monday night game in Denver, it took a DeMarcus Ware, fumble recovery to win the game. I could definitely see a Von Miller or a Shalik Barrett or Shane Ray doing the same thing this time around. But I'm going to take the Bengals here because I'm going to trust the quarterback and the overall offense and defense compared to Brock Osweiler, who's looked below average. And I don't think that Denver's defense heart isn't in anymore. And though they want to play better, I just think they just want to get through this year to get on to their vacations and their rest time, because they know they're not making the playoffs, and they're probably going to have possibly a top 10 pick if this keeps up. So that's all like Cincinnati here, plus 2.5, and Cincinnati straight up. Next game, the Pats over the Raiders. The Pats, this is a weird experience for them. I believe they're in Colorado Springs, Colorado this week to prepare for this game. But I'm going to take the Patriots here just because this Pats defense has been playing much better. Bill Belichick tied Tom Landry for the third most wins in NFL history at 270. But when you look at the Pats, you look at the Raiders. The Raiders are an underachieving team with a lot of defensive and offensive talent that should be better. The Patriots are a defensive team and an offensive team that's gone through injuries like Chris Hogan, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola's been hurt. One of their tackles has been hurt. Dante Hightower's been out. Rowe's been out. And all these injuries, and they're still playing phenomenal football. And I just think with Tom Brady, leading the league in passing yards right now, I think he'll be able to go up against this Raiders secondary, which lost Garyon Conley to a shin injury this week, and now he'll be out for the rest of the year. I just think the Pats just roll over the Raiders with their offense, and I think the Pats defense bends but doesn't breaks again and gets another decisive win in Mexico to beat the Raiders. That's like New England minus 6.5 and New England straight up. Next game, the Eagles over the Cowboys. No Zeke, no Sean Lee, probably no Tyron Smith. That's it. Those three guys are not there. The Cowboys are doomed. Dak Prescott can try to run around, but last Sunday was one of the first times where all those Dak critics were right. Even though, again, Chaz Green should have been fired. He played one of the worst left tackle games I've seen in a long time. He gave up 6 sacks to Adrian Claiborne, which broke a Falcons record. But at the end of the day, Dak only threw for about 100 yards, and he was second in the team in rushing. So without Tyron Smith there, they don't have, they haven't been able to produce any movement at holes. And I just think with that limited offense, I think the Eagles, who are the best team in the NFL, they just re-signed Timmy Jernigan to a 4-year extension. They have Ronald Darby coming back off the PUP. They have Darnell Ellerbe coming in. This Eagles team is prepared to be confident, to be motivated, and to know that basically if they win this game, they shut the NFC East coffin over the Cowboys to basically put themselves in the perfect position to win this division, running away with it, and still continue to be the best team in the NFL. And also the Eagles over the last couple of years have gone into Dallas and have played very well. They've won 3 of the last 4 meetings, I believe, in Dallas, and they've all been close games. Well, besides the Thanksgiving one, they've all been close games. But I think with how the Cowboys are right now, losing a lot of defensive talent, not having much defensive skill in the first place, and not being able to run the ball or protect Dak as well, with a banged up Tyron Smith at least, the Eagles should win this game easily and firmly control this division, and probably win it with this kind of win over the Cowboys to improve to 9-1. So that's like Philadelphia minus 3 and Philadelphia straight up. And finally, the Seahawks over the Falcons. This is one of those games where the Falcons, look, they played phenomenal and they handled their business like they should have against a banged-up Cowboy team. This is different. I know Richard Sherman's out for the year. He tore his Achilles, and it's kind of known that he could have suffered this kind of injury at any point this year. But they re-signed Byron Maxwell. They have Shalik Griffin, and they have Jeremy Lane as a nickel corner. Those 3 guys can have an adequate secondary combined with this great pass rush the Seahawks have to hold on for at least the rest of the regular season. And there's just a part of me with Matt Ryan where I feel like that was a little bit more of a more consistent game. But going up against the Cowboys defense and the Seahawks difference are 2 different things, especially in Seattle. Matt Ryan, I believe, has never gone into Seattle and won a football game for them. He was close last year. If Sherman would have been called on PI correctly, they probably could have won that game. But I'm going to take the Seahawks here. They don't have Devontae Freeman, who's in concussion protocol. And the Seahawks have one of the better run defenses in the league. I'll trust I'll trust the Seahawks defense to contain Julio Jones in that offense, Julio, by the way, only has one passing offensive touchdown this year, which is nuts for a guy as talented as he is. And I just think, again, Pete Carroll, Dan Quinn, they have the dynamic of the former coordinator coming back in for the second straight time to try to beat him. I think Quinn's going to remember what happened and try to implement that. But Pete Carroll knows more than Dan Quinn does, and I think he'll be able to make enough plays or provide enough busted coverages for the Seahawks to win this game in a fairly tight game that basically can knock one team out of the playoff conversation, and another one could put them back, and another one for the other team, the Seahawks, into the spot of not only just the wild card race, but the NFC West as well. So that's why I like Seattle or -3 and Seattle straight up. And that's it. So like, comment, rate, subscribe. Please check out the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page. There's a lot of other great people like me that make these picks every single week for all you fans that enjoy us doing it, for your enjoyment and our insight. And that's it. So good luck to all players, coaches, teams, fantasy owners, and fellow prognosticators. And until next week, Thanksgiving week, this is Matthew Fanatic signing off. Until then, so long.